Hello, in this video I'm reviewing the Benro Cyanbird travel tripod with the combination video photography head, and later on in the video I'll also give a few bonus tips about using tripods in general. So the tripod's designed for travel and it's designed to be versatile. It comes in 5 section legs with clips. And it has rubber feet. They're fixed rubber feet, so you can't change them out for spikes as you can in some tripods. However, that's not an issue for me. I've never actually found spikes much use. The tripod also comes with this handy travel bag, which is big enough to carry accessories as well. And sometimes I carry a second tripod or a monopod. That's quite handy if you want to keep your tripod separate from clothes and things in your suitcase when you're traveling. The Cyanbird can also be used in a number of different configurations for different shooting scenarios. It's got lockable legs that tilt way up. It also comes with a hook that unscrews and converts into an Allen key, and the use for that is if you take out the center column and unscrew the head, you can actually take the head apart and just use the tripod without the center stem. So why would you want to do that? Well, if you wanted to travel with an absolute minimum setup, you'd do that. But also it means that you can get the tripod really low to the ground in this sort of scenario. There's also another Allen key on the arm, so you can remove the arm completely using this Allen key, which I would suggest doing if you're only using the tripod head for photography. You don't need this arm because it really just gets in the way if you're only using the ball head. So who is this tripod intended for? I think it's intended for travel photographers and content creators. Travel photographers will like its light weight and very small footprint, and I think content creators will like its versatility in that it's very adaptable for shooting stills and video and can be used in quite a number of different configurations. I can best illustrate the usefulness of this tripod by showing you the tripod that it's going to replace, which is a Gitzo Explorer carbon fiber tripod. I'll put the relative measurements on screen, but this is roughly twice the weight of this one. It's also significantly taller and just takes up more room in a suitcase. This can actually fit in a small backpack where I really can't get this in a small backpack. One of the downsides of such a small lightweight tripod is it's a bit more prone to being blown over in the wind, so I suspect I'll be using a weight bag more often with this tripod, especially when it's at full extension. The other thing is it doesn't go up quite as high as some of the other tripods I have, but still pretty good eye-level photography. I would be quite cautious about using the tripod at full extension without a weight bag. Very easy to tip over. But certainly with the hook underneath and a weight bag, it's quite solid. Vibrations are also more pronounced anyway if you're using long telephoto lenses. So I'd just be cautious about using long lenses with this without a weight bag. One trick with using long lenses is you can hold your hand on the camera to steady it. That actually works quite well if you are having a bit of a problem. I wouldn't use it for very long exposures, but anything down to about half a second, it's quite a useful technique. So are any of these downsides enough to make me leave this tripod behind? I can pretty confidently say no, and that in fact I won't be traveling with the heavier Gitzo tripod anymore. This is the one that will go in my travel bag. A couple of other things worth mentioning are that this tripod's so light that I can feasibly travel with a couple of tripods. I have an older version of this which is aluminium, but it's still very light and compact, so I can actually fit both of those in the travel bag. It's kind of handy for me because I'm often using a second camera or using a phone to film as well as a mirrorless camera. And the other thing is, if I'm desperate to get some extra height, I can actually attach a selfie stick to the central column and get a bit more height. Of course, I wouldn't use it in any sort of wind, but in still conditions it actually works all right. Some other features that this tripod has that my older tripod doesn't have are lots of 1/4 inch threaded holes around the tripod that you can attach various things to, like phone holders or gobos for blocking the light. So the multi-purpose head works really well for stills, photography and for panoramas. If you're just using this setup for stills, I would actually remove this arm, which you can do just by unscrewing it here. That just comes off. But I would suggest using the integrated Allen key on the handle and taking it off here so that it's off completely. And that way you can just use the ball head for photography and the arm doesn't get in the way. The tripod head is well suited for shooting panoramas because you can set it so that it's perfectly level, so that when you're shooting your stitched exposures, they're not going to slope downwards. So it's got 3 bubble levels. For shooting panoramas, you don't need to worry about the one that's on the tripod legs. You can just use the one on the ball head for starters. So to access that, you rotate the head all the way down, and then there's a bubble level on the top, and then just adjust the ball until that's at the center. Tighten the ball up, put that back up, and just like that you have a level base for moving the camera around for your exposures. There is actually another level on the top plate that will let you level the camera in the tilt direction if you need to do that. This is probably a good time to talk about the Swiss Arca clamp system that I use. So for many years I've used these really right stuff camera brackets which use the Swiss Arca clamping system. It's a very stable system of attaching the camera and removing it quickly. The other advantage of the L brackets on the cameras is that I can quickly change the camera to vertical orientation. And I often shoot panoramas in this mode because it gives me more image at the top and the bottom, and it also gives me the highest resolution I can get from a panorama. So the advantage of this system is that I can keep the weight of the camera over the center of the column at all times. When I was shooting vertical with an older system with ball head, which you can do by rotating the ball like this. The problem with this is that the weight of the camera is now over to the side of the tripod. It just makes the tripod less stable. It also makes the camera prone to slipping down unless you really tighten the ball head, and you actually just get less height than if you can just rotate the camera like this. So the L bracket's very useful. The other advantage of the Swiss Arca system is that you can quickly detach the camera and attach other accessories to the mounting system, such as phone holders, attachable arms, all sorts of things. So for video shooters, the tripod head has adjustable dampening in all directions. for smooth movements. So if you're not familiar with video heads, the main difference is that you can isolate movements to pan, tilt and roll, 3 directions you're normally using for video, and you can usually dampen the movements so that you get nice smooth video moves. There's also an adjustable arm at the back here which gives you more control if you use it at the end. It also has 1/4 inch threads where you can attach extensions to it as well. So here's an older, more traditional style of video head that lets you isolate the movements in all directions. You can see how much heavier and bulkier it is than this compact head. And now for some tips and tricks on using tripods. You can use your tripod as a monopod at a pinch. This is particularly useful if you're on a bit of a run and gun mission and in a hurry. It's certainly more stable than hand holding the camera, and you can use your tripod like this down to about ½ a second quite successfully. The other thing you can use your tripod is for getting over the heads of crowds just by holding it up at the full extension. This is also useful if you want to lean out over a viewpoint or a cliff face or something. I suggest also carrying a weight bag or some sort of bag that you can attach to the hook at the base of the tripod. You can put rocks in this, or even heavy bits of camera equipment, bottles of water, anything that is going to weight the tripod down, and that just protects it from vibrations and wind, and also from getting blown over in gusts of wind. I also have a tent peg and a fairly robust bit of string in my camera bag, and this can serve the same purpose as a weight bag, which you can stick into turf, or if you're in the outdoors, this works really well. If you have a tripod with a twist lock system, I find the quickest way to do this is just to hold all the twist locks together and just do a quarter turn. Don't turn too far. Pull all the legs out, tighten, tighten, tighten. Go around all the legs doing that. And then just the same in reverse. So just a very small turn. The one disadvantage I find with the twist locks is that you can never be quite sure if you've tightened them enough, and what can happen is after you've been using your camera for a while, it starts to tilt down on one side. I have had that happen a bit, and what I like about the Benro system of this clips is it's very clear when the legs are locked into place, so there's no chance of that slippage. If you see braces on a tripod leg, that usually means that the tripod's intended for video, as the braces give the tripod extra stability, which is useful when you're panning or tilting the pan head. So one unusual tripod system I've used quite a lot over the years is the Unilock system, which has a single adjustment at the center that lets you move the legs in any direction. Take a bit of getting used to, but I've found the tripod very versatile. So in conclusion, if you're a traveler looking to lighten your load, then this Benro Cyanbird tripod is hard to beat. If you are just shooting photography and not much video, however, I would probably look at just getting the standard ball head, because it's much simpler to use and it's more compact and lightweight. But really this tripod is hard to beat if you're doing a number of different things such as video, panoramas and stills photography, and you're looking for a lightweight, compact tripod. So as I've mentioned in previous videos, I consider a tripod an essential part of my kit. It allows me to do photography in low light and also to do long exposure photography, which I'm a bit of a fan of. What I also find with a tripod is it makes me more considered in my composition and framing of photos. And what I often do when I'm setting up the tripod, I'm actually using that time to consider the composition and start thinking about framing and even moving around a bit. So I'm not even looking at what I'm doing, because after a while it becomes second nature setting up the tripod. And so by the time you set it up, you've already framed your composition, thought about what you're going to do, and you're ready to go. So all tripods are a compromise between size, weight, and functionality. But I reckon this Benro Cyanbird tripod is hard to beat as a combination of all three. And lastly, just a plug for supporting your local camera store if you've got one. I'm lucky enough to have a pretty big camera store in my hometown of Christchurch, New Zealand, and that's Photo and Video International. I've used them for many years and will continue to do so because they give me a couple of extra things that I can't get from online stuff. One is I can go in and actually try out the equipment. Nothing quite beats that. And also, they've given me really good backup service over the years. They've solved technical problems for me. They've backed me up with warranty issues or lent me gear at short notice when I've had gear failures. So there's a lot to be said for having a bit of local support. And this is especially important if you're a solo photographer, as I am. And just for disclosure, I did buy this tripod from Photo and Video. I did pay full price for it, and they didn't ask me to do any review or anything, but I just thought I would do a review and mention them because I wasn't really aware that this had come on the market, and they just mentioned it to me and thought it might be of use to me. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.